Hi, I'm Kendall, Service Manager here at Randazzo Heating and Cooling, and today we're in our training facility to talk to you about a very common issue, and that issue is short cycling and whether or not your furnace may be doing it. In order to understand what short cycling is, you have to understand what a normal operation for your furnace is. So we're going to start this demo unit up behind us so we can illustrate exactly how your system should be operating. So we'll take off a couple covers here in order to get a better look. And the first thing you're going to hear is your inducer motor kicking on in order to pull your combustion gas through your combustion chamber and through the heat exchanger, expelling any exhaust byproducts to the outside. Once this begins to spin, your pressure switch is going to close, and that is going to tell our control board that we have adequate draft and we're moving enough air to support combustion. Next thing we're going to see is our igniter starting to glow inside our combustion chamber. You're going to hear our gas valve open up and the unit's going to ignite. After a few minutes, this heat exchanger is going to get warm enough that the blower motor is going to kick on and start to move that air through the home. At first, it's got to purge the air out of the ductwork. So you're going to notice that the air that originally comes out of your system might feel a little bit cold at first, but it will build to being warmer as that cool air that was inside the ductwork ends up escaping out into your home. So now that we understand how the system should be working, let's get to the question that's on everybody's mind. What is short cycling and what does it look like? So short cycling is going to be any time that the system shuts down and resets without reaching the desired temperature. So you may be sitting in your living room and hear your furnace shut down and stop running, but you've noticed that your thermostat is only at 68 when the temperature is set to 71. That is textbook short cycling. So let's go over a few reasons why your system might be short cycling. And the first one that I'd like to cover is your flame sensor. So your flame sensor actually sticks inside the stream of flame, and as its name implies, it senses flame. This portion of the flame sensor, this actually protrudes into the flame. So this is actually what's in that stream of flame as the unit's running. And this is actually picking up an electrical signal from the burners themselves. The signal is fed back to the control board through a wire that connects here at the back of the flame sensor. Now, this unit's pulling clean, fresh air in from outside, but a lot of times systems pull in ambient basement air, and that air might have some contaminants or pollutants that ultimately ends up getting burnt up through that flame, and that carbon deposits on this sensor. That creates an insulative layer that can actually interfere with this signal. So what ends up happening is the board will get kind of a mixed communication as to whether or not that flame is actually present, and think that it's not even when it is, and shut the system down. So it's imperative that these be cleaned on a regular basis. So we obviously recommend having a trained professional come out to do your maintenance on a regular basis, but for educational purposes, this can be cleaned just simply by removing the screw that holds it in place, removing it from the unit, and cleaning the metal off with an abrasive such as sandpaper or emery cloth, or even a razor blade to just scrape that carbon coating off of that metal in order to be able to get a more clear signal to go back to the board. So the next thing we're going to talk about is our primary limit switch. So this is a primary limit switch that's used inside these Lennox furnaces. This actually sticks inside your heat exchanger, And this is what you see from the front side, which is just basically a silicone card with two contacts that a wire connects to on both sides. This should remain closed, allowing power to go through this switch. But what happens if your furnace begins to run too hot is that switch will actually open and cut power going back to the board. That signifies that we've got a unit that's overheating. So what causes that to happen is a few different things. One, filters. Filters are imperative in terms of getting air through your system and keeping it within a normal operating temperature. So changing your filters often is definitely a way to keep these working properly. The other things that can affect that would be things like gas pressure from your utility company, as well as your blower speed and the settings of your equipment as well. So again, those are things that we would want to have a trained professional come out in order to assess, but definitely if you're noticing that the unit is shutting off, definitely might be a primary limit switch opening that's causing that. Next, we're going to talk about pressure switches. Like I mentioned earlier, your draft motor here is pulling air in to the unit, pulling it through the heat exchanger and expelling those exhaust products outside, where we don't mind if they're outside. We don't want them inside the house. So what these do is they act like a safety to ensure that the proper amount of air is being pulled through the system in order to A, provide proper combustion, but B, provide safety for you and your family. So how could a pressure switch possibly cause some short cycling symptoms? Well, we might see things like plugged up ports. These units have several ports that all need to remain clear in order for that pressure to be verified. Blocked up exhaust or intakes outside, maybe some debris got collected around or over top of that. We've seen garbage cans get put in front of those items. All of that obstructs the flow of that air into your home to your unit. It could also signify that your inducer motor itself may not be as healthy as you hope it is and may start showing signs of failure in terms of not being able to move the proper amount of air through your system in order to keep it operating. One of the other things that will cause this is a condensate backup. So high efficiency furnaces like this produce condensate as it operates. That condensate does need to be able to flow out of the unit. So unit pitch becomes very important in terms of getting that water out. You can see on the right-hand side of our furnace here, we've got some drain lines exiting the unit. All of those need to lead towards a floor drain. If any of those are proper or improperly pitched, that can lead to the unit retaining water and ultimately these switches getting flooded out. One of the other things that's possible with your system causing short cycling with your pressure switch could possibly be a defect or damage to your inducer motor itself, or even blockages in your exhaust or intake internally. Every year we see bees' nests, birds' nests, squirrels hiding their nuts away. All these things we see that can create that obstruction that stops that proper airflow through the system and can stop the pressure switch from reading correctly. So, and again, to recap on the circuit board, we have the brain center of the entire unit all down here in the blower compartment. Things like bad contacts, things like loose connections to the board, improper utility voltage coming from your electricity provider. All of those items can really cause some intermittent failures or intermittent issues that will cause your system to short cycle and believe that it's needing to start over again. Also with that comes your thermostat, which is connected in the living space. If the batteries inside that thermostat are starting to weaken, they can cause that thermostat, even though it says it's heating, it can cause that signal that it's delivering back to your furnace to be weak and hard to interpret. So it may think that the thermostat's no longer calling for heat, even when it is. So changing those batteries out frequently is definitely a way to avoid some of these issues. So now that we've talked about your furnace and short cycling, let's talk about your home and how it can impact short cycling as well. Things like shutting down registers in some areas of your home might push a little bit of extra air to some areas where you feel it's more desirable, but also might cause some of that heat to back up into the unit, causing it to short cycle. Blocking off registers with curtains or furniture definitely will also have the same effect. Poor insulation, windows being left unobstructed on really cold days can definitely cause a house to have rapid heat loss. So the heat that the furnace is making can escape at a larger rate, causing the furnace to shut off and then almost immediately turn back on. Things like keeping your garage door closed, keeping curtains drawn, making sure that your windows are sealed properly, making sure that your doors have proper seals as well, and that you're not leaving those openings open any longer than you absolutely have to, really goes a long way to stop the unit from having to run through a full cycle and then immediately kick back on in order to make up for the heat that the home has lost all over again. So to recap, we've talked about how a furnace should operate. We've talked about what short cycling is and what it kind of looks like inside of a furnace, including your flame sensor, your primary limit switch, your pressure switches, and your main control board. We've also talked about some things that might be taking place inside your home that also might be leading to your system short cycling. I really hope that you found this video to be very informative. If you did, please give us a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to throw it in the comments. And if you have any belief that your system may be short cycling, give us a call, 586-336-1111. We'd be happy to come out and examine your system, give it a full diagnostic in order to make sure that everything's working correctly. And if any issues are found, we can definitely go over with you what those repairs look like and how we can make your system operate better. As always, I'm Kendall Crampton, Service Manager here at Randazzo Heating and Cooling. And for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, make sure to go with the name you know.
Go with the name you know.